Welcome back to the s.nation.rise podcast, episode 92. I'm your host, Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me, we got my great co-hosts. We got Andrew Quinn, Carl McDonald, and Daniel Miguel. Welcome you guys back to another episode. The road to 100 is very, very promising because I tell you what, we do the weekly ones, but sometimes we give you guys a little extra one, so it won't quite be like another 8 weeks till we get there. I feel like we'll be there a lot sooner than that. But happy St. Patrick's Day as well. I think Carl, we were having this discussion before everyone joined. Celtics should have a game on St. Patrick's Day. It's like, you're like, come on, at the Garden. Got the Leprechaun. Like, it needs to happen. But we're still celebrating. And I gotta say, geez, I'm so upset that I can't even bring this up now, but Jaylen Brown is celebrating as well. I have to say, we talked about this, but he was in the parade the other day. Just phenomenal. I'm just gonna pull up a picture on my phone. But just amazing what he's doing for the city, and amazing what the Celtics have been doing for in basketball. If you guys want to go around really quick, you guys know the drill, just initial thoughts from how the Celtics have been playing recently. And Andrew, you even were at the game last night. You joined the recap. Everyone go check that out after. That was a fun cameo from Andrew from the TD Garden. But Andrew, we'll start off with you, go to Carl and Daniel. What are your thoughts on the Celtics play as of recently?
Yeah, Celtics play as of recently. Obviously, it's been heavily focused on Jason Tatum and his return and what he's been able to do so far. And he's given us what we need and then some. I mean, right now it's probably around that 20-point mark, maybe a little slightly less than that. And as we talk about all the time, his gravity on the court is it's massive. I mean, his ability to draw defenders and then play make out of it is super impressive. But not only does that gravity help Jason Tatum, it helps guys like Jaylen Brown, who is now able to go play one-on-one and just really, really eat. I mean, look at last night. Jaylen Brown, 41 points, near triple-double. I mean, the game, there's a lot more freedom for Jaylen Brown, and he's just not getting as many doubles. And he's seeing a lot more simpler looks on the offensive end. And that's really has lent itself to Jaylen Brown and his production. And then this team just works hard. We've talked about it all season, but I feel like we can kind of call them the goon squad that comes off the bench with Hugo and Shireman and all those guys that just want to work hard and they work well together. I mean, they just bring that energy day in and day out, and it's infectious throughout the entire squad. So overall, I mean, just a really, really impressive run so far. And I gotta go. I'm gonna go back to Jaylen Brown because talking about the Goon Squad and what they do for Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown also in that game last night, the pace he played at, the command on the offensive end to get to his spots at will and really just pick apart that Suns defense. It was spectacular. And not to mention, he played phenomenal on the defensive end. So this guy is firing on all cylinders, and having Tatum come back makes his life that much easier.
Yeah, looking at the Boston Celtics as of recently, it's, just, again, great to see them playing in the way that they're playing. Definitely a far cry from what we were supposed to be this season. Again, as I talked about last night, Jaylen Brown is a fantastic leader and deserves all the credit in the world, not just for how he performed last night, but how he's been performing throughout this entire season, even with the return of Tatum. And speaking of which, Jason Tatum is, as Andrew has described, somebody that's pretty much important to this team. However you like to see it, yes, we've been successful without him, but I feel like we're just as successful with him. If he's not getting it done on the offensive end, again, when it comes to playmaking and especially the rebounds too, those two metrics mainly are his bread and butter and really does help this team to succeed in more ways than one. Then, of course, you're going about talking about everybody else on this team. Sam Hauser, Jordan Walsh, individuals who weren't necessarily consistent, the Derek White, but still also providing the necessary productivity we needed for this team's success. And of course, my guy, Hugo Gonzalez, of course, playing out of his mind, and mainly Baylor Scheinman, too, as of recently throughout this last month. It's always great to see, these players, again, playing with purpose, playing harder than they have ever played before. And yeah, of course, being a very different team from what they were last season and even the season prior to that. I'm always glad and again proud to see this Boston Celtics team playing in the way that they're playing, and it just gets me even more excited to see them, playing before we enter the postseason.
Yeah. Oh, Daniel, you're muted.
As I was saying, obviously conversations about postseason are going to start now because we got, what was it yesterday? 14 games. Is that what was said yesterday of basketball left? Carl mentioned he didn't know we're that close to playoffs, and I didn't know either until now. It seemed like so much has happened, but at the same time, not much, And I feel this way every season. Every season, it's like, oh, the season's gone by too fast. But it's been almost 82 games already, and it's been about 5 months. Yeah, 5 months since the season started. I remember because it started on my birthday, like it does almost every year. So yeah, another amazing season for the Celtics so far, in my opinion. We continue to silence the doubters. We continue to silence the people that say we're not a top three team. I'll say that we're not a top three team in the league. We continue to silence the people that say JB and GT aren't a talented duo, and we continue to silence the people that say JB and GT, JB is not an MVP caliber player. So season after season, we keep silencing these doubters, and at some point it becomes like what next are you going to say? Like who else can we silence? What other claims can you come up with that we'll just silence like a week later or 2 weeks later? Before we won the chip, it was that question, like, when are the Celtics going to win a championship? When is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, when are they going to win? They're not going to be a good duo until they win. They won. Now what? Now it's, the Celtics are going to be a good team without Tatum. We've done that. Now what? Oh, now it's the Celtics aren't going to be a good team with Tatum. And we've proved that wrong too. So it just keeps on going, And as Celtics fans, at least in my opinion, I don't mind it. Keep coming up with these claims, keep coming up with these allegations, and we'll keep proving you wrong, like we've done all season. So I want to give a huge shout out to the Celtics this season, especially for this huge spurt this huge span of time that we've gone without Tatum and what we've been able to accomplish without him. We are. I'm just gonna read off some stats. Statistically, we are the best defensive team in the league right now. We're first in opponents' points per game, which doesn't mean a lot, I guess, for those who don't know about it. But if we're the number one team in terms of opponents' points per game, it means we have a really good defense, and we're second in opponents' field goals made. We're also first in turnovers, meaning we have the least amount of turnovers in the league. None of that happens without the greatness that this team is. None of that happens without JB, without White, without Pritchard, without any of these guys who put in work, like Andrew said, day in, day out from the beginning of the season. We're fourth in rebounding. We're one of the best rebounding teams in the league. Like, there's so many stats that I could just go off of right now to say that we're a legitimate top three team in the league right now. And to those who a week ago, a season ago, whatever, said we weren't, here are the stats to prove you on. And there's so many more where that came from. But yeah, we've set a standard, and as Boston, a standard that can't really be compared to any other team. It's just been amazing to watch this team this season. Without Tatum, it was fantastic. Watching Jaylen Brown finally take charge of the team and be the leader he was always meant to be. And now with Tatum, it's even more fun. You add in assists, you add in rebounds, you add in points, and we just look like a much better team now. Not to say we're a bad team before him, but it's like we're all the way up here, and then with Tatum, we just go like an inch above where we were before, and it's all the dots are all connecting. I'll still stand firm on our belief that we're gonna get that first seed from the Pistons. I'm just waiting for that day to come. Then I'll fully rejoice. But for the time being, I'm loving this team. I'm loving Tatum. Finally back, averaging about 20 since his return. And the whole team in general has been fantastic.
Geez, Daniel, I gotta say you got me fired up with that, and I have to say it seems like a Ime Udoka type team. Like, remember back in 2022, we were such a good defensive team, and we kind of steered away from that in 2024, where our offense just really took place. But it's kind of like we went back a little bit back in time, and I have a lot of confidence going into this, playoffs this year with this teams. I'm so excited, and I gotta say, really quick before we get on our first topic too, no one can pinch us. We're all wearing green. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I already said it, but I also gotta say this is not going to be posted on St. Patrick's Day. I know. What a shame. But still gotta show love. But with that being said, I want to talk about this a little bit because, Daniel and I will I'm sure we have some extra takes, but we also made a video about this. So go check it out on the CNR page after. And if you already have, you guys can skip through this point. But, Andrew and Carl haven't really talked about the Charles Bassey 10-day. We talked about it with how the Celtics needed contracts on the roster. Like, they had to have a certain amount of people. And to go along, Daniel and I kind of went into the saga with Amari Williams and everything. But if you guys wanted to just say your thoughts on it as well, and then Daniel and I could brush up on it a little bit. Andrew and Carl, what do you guys think about the Charles Bassey 10-day? Because it officially started yesterday. Did not get any playing time, but was on the bench for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that signing, as you guys talked about, more so to get a contract on the roster and fill that empty space. But I will say his production in the summer league was high level, top tier, 15.3 points, 11.0 rebounds, 2.0 blocks, and a couple double doubles to go along with that. I mean, he's a talented big man. He's strong, he's athletic, he can protect the rim. His shooting not a special, but I mean he's got similar traits to a guy like Neemias Queta, where you're just gonna set hard screens, dive to the rim, rebound the basketball, and get putbacks, and he's capable. And we were super high on him. Celtics fans, everyone really liked this guy, and we're excited about what he could potentially bring to the table, considering the fact we weren't sure who was going to fill that big man slot. And so having him on the roster, I think, is mostly because we need to fill that contract. But then again, he's got high upside, and you just never know if he's going to get an opportunity. Considering without Vucevic, we needed another big man in case, knock on wood, someone does miss a couple games here and there.
And can I say something too before you go really quick, Carl, too? And I mentioned on it as well, playoffs are coming up like really fast. And, obviously you want to go on guys like Luka Garza and Neemias Queta. They're young. So, you could give them that time and let them even develop even more before playoffs. But it also helps to give them a little rest too. And this could be a guy that you could really put some wear and tear on. It doesn't look like they're going to go that route, but you could totally give him some wear and tear.
I mean, it is early though. Like they definitely could still go that route. I mean, I know we have still, it's getting to a point where we don't have that many games left, but you're going to start seeing it transpire and them get resting guys. I could definitely see it. But then again, you're in this playoff push, right? As Daniel alluded to, you want to potentially get that 1 seed. Does having Bassey in the rotation get you there? I don't know. So there's definitely some things to consider. It's not just black and white.
Yeah, but go for it, Carl. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your spotlight really quick.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. In this situation, I really agree with Andrew here. Filling up the roster as much as we can, just getting as many bodies as we can going into the postseason, allowing for our star bigs to rest. Vucevic, of course, not coming back until probably the beginning of the postseason. Obviously, he should be back by early April, but I would assume the Celtics could rest him with a few games before the season actually concludes. You know, Bassey is definitely a player I feel like can be productive for us. He looked, yeah, as we discussed, really good in the summer league, and those were only a few games. And I feel like this is somebody we could have had with us for essentially the duration of the season. Extra bigs and excuse me, extra, bodies on that front court area. Another, body to really help us out as much as possible. And yeah, that was one of the big problems that we had going into the season was who was essentially going to fill the void, left by Kristaps Porzingis and now Horford and of course Luke Cornett, because it wasn't just going to be Neemias Queta. And at that point in time too, Garza wasn't really, able to prove himself until, up until recently. So definitely this is somebody I feel like should have a contract, bigger than just the 10-day, just because we really need to, ramp up and prepare for a potential postseason run to, again, a potential championship run that we could have. And for us to at least get there or, think to get there, we would have to include somebody like a Bassey here. And I feel like it helps that we have this team where it was essentially supposed to be a developmental season for most of the guys who came in, not just who came in recently, but also came in, a season prior. So for a Baylor Shireman and Jordan Walsh and, of course, Hugo Gonzalez, is mainly supposed to be for those guys to make their mistakes and we move on and, not really mention that. But they've transcended into some of our greatest successes, leading to the ultimate success of being a second seed within the Eastern Conference. And I feel like we can get Bassey to a point where he can also be productive alongside those guys, Ron Harper Jr., maybe a Max Shulga, and many of those other guys too. Definitely, I really want him to be a part of the team because, again, we need more bodies out here.
Yeah. Daniel, do you have anything else you want to brush up on it? I know we talked about it for a while, but do you have anything else that you want to say on Bassey?
No, not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this part. Yeah, Daniel, you think strong about your boy Amari now. I gotta say, I agree from that standpoint though, because Daniel and I even had a discussion after how, instead you give these minutes to Amari, but it's 10 days. It's not like he's gonna be on the roster. I mean, he'd go out there and shine. And I look at this because he was just with the Santa Cruz Warriors, the G League team. So I think, it just helps him in the long run too. Teams can take a flyer on him if they like Bassey, I think that's in a sense, what we were doing with Delano Banton. It's a cheap 10-day contract. Like if he shows promise, okay, maybe. But realistically, it was for other teams to kind of take a flyer on him and showcase his skills. I think in a sense, that's kind of what it is with Bassey too, and you need a contract. And, you've went to him earlier in the season. So, I mean, it's totally possible. But do you guys have anything else you wanted to say on Bassey? Anyone else have any other comments before we move on?
Yeah, for a little more info on Bassey with the Santa Cruz Warriors this season is averaging 20.5 points per game, 12.5 rebounds per game, and 1.5 assists per game. Stat lines against South Bay: 28 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks, and versus Austin, 17 rebounds, 6 blocks. I mean, this guy has performed in the G League. We got a small sample size of him from the summer league, so it was a little harder for us to take a chance on him. But seeing his production in the G League, I mean, you have to give him an opportunity. Someone out there has to give him an opportunity because I think he's really capable. And I do kind of wish that the Celtics did sign him at some point and at the beginning of the season, insert him into the lineup and just kind of tested the waters with him and see what he could have given us, because I think he is capable. So it's definitely, looking back on it, it's kind of in the back of my mind, like, why didn't we, as Griffin said, take a flyer on him and give him a shot, considering the big man depth that we had?
And I have to say, he is an NBA caliber player. I mean, this player, that's what we were talking about with Spencer too. And he, we'll get into this later in the podcast about Keon Johnson, but he's an NBA ready guy. Charles Bassey is an NBA ready talent. Like, he is more than capable to play up with the Celtics. So it's just interesting to see him even fall in the G League. Like, you would think a team would have went on him and, given him opportunity. I believe he did have a 10-day contract with the 76ers in there or something, or a team. He had some NBA time this year, but ultimately, you look at it, he's on the Santa Cruz Warriors. Celtics want to go with him, give him a stab and a shot at it. I like it. Carl, you have anything else you want to add on to it, though?
Nothing more than I feel like he deserves a chance to really show off what he's capable of.
Yeah, because this is an NBA player. This is a player that deserves it. He shows, this is a player that I wouldn't, there's not a risk when you really put him out there. He gets the job done, and he's not a bad player, from what I've seen of him. But moving forward to Max Shulga, 2-year deal, I gotta say, this one caught me by surprise, you guys, because I want to plead my case. I have nothing but love and respect for Max Shulga. I've seen him play in the G League. I think he's a great player, and with development, I think he could even be a piece in the NBA someday. Like, I really see talent in Max Shulga, but I have to say it did catch me by surprise because, for one, we'll get into this topic next about Ron Harper Jr., but you expect to see that first, or you expect to see something else. But I look at the Max Shulga deal and I look at, because he hasn't even scored his first NBA bucket yet. And again, I did a video on this, so you guys can watch that after as well. But I look at it from this perspective as well. You look at this with Max Shulga, it's kind of low risk, high reward. You're paying him very minimal. This 2-year deal you get very easily because you drafted him, second round pick. I like it from that aspect because you need a roster spot. Max Shulga is easy. And you look at it, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really hurt the Celtics any. Like, you could waive him, but I was just shocked. I was shocked that they did this, like, because you would think they would just give him a 10-day contract like they did with Tanji instead of a standard 2-year deal. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it. So we'll start off with you, Andrew, and none of you guys have really talked about this at all. So we'll go all the way through again. So Andrew, we'll start off with you about this because it really shocked me. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm definitely I have been faced with it now.
Yeah, I'm with you, Griffin. It definitely caught me off guard. I won't lie. Like you said, he hasn't touched the floor a lot in the NBA, so we really don't have any sample size of what he can do in the NBA. We do have a good sample size of him in the G League. He's averaging 15.7 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 7.2 assists. So he can certainly create on the offensive end, and he's a capable scorer around that 15.7 mark. And I think if you look at G League production, it's interesting to me. I think Ron Harper Jr. is averaging, say, 28.5 or whatever, and say that's what the average is. I don't have the exact number. Say he's averaging that. He's probably going to come to the NBA and maybe it's like a 12, 15 number, right? So you kind of, a lot of the time, maybe you cut 10 points from that scoring average or maybe a little 8. So, if Max Shulga, if we go by that kind of standpoint, he could come in off the bench, give you a nice little 8 to 10 points per night and produce. So I like what he could do for us. I think that assist number is great in a Celtics offense that thrives on moving the ball. And I like him. I like his pace. I really, really like his feel for the game. He's very methodical in his movements, and a roommate of mine, he is actually on the court. He helps out with the bench and, giving them their towels and cleaning up the floor, all that stuff, game day operations. And he's with the Maine Celtics. And he was talking to me about Shulga and how he really, really likes his game. And he almost reminds him of like a mini Luka in some cases, where he can really, really score the ball. He's got a nice little pace to himself, and he's confident, and he's got a nice little dribble. So I don't want to get too high on Max Shulga considering we don't know what he's capable of, but I do think his upside is fairly high. And Brad Stevens loves to invest in these guys. He really likes to put faith in them, and I think that lends itself to Max Shulga becoming a quality player for the Celtics because these guys put confidence in these players. So I think Max Shulga could be a very, very nice piece for this team. And I don't want to Pritchard Max Shulga comparison, like I don't want to go there because Pritchard is miles ahead of Max Shulga, but you gotta think about these things, and you do need to have a point guard potentially in your arsenal and build him up. Like there's always has to be a backup plan for all of these problems because we know how talented Pritchard is. And I'm not saying he's leaving anytime soon or anything like that, but there always has to be a B plan. And I think Max Shulga could be that B plan just to consider. So I like Max Shulga, and I will say too, it was the contract. We're gonna talk about Ron Harper, but Ron Harper, you probably have to pay him a little more than Max Shulga right now at this stage.
Yeah, this is definitely something that, yeah, I agree with the two of you. Caught me by surprise. I don't really know how to feel about it. Definitely, I don't want to, I guess, bring negativity towards it. I don't want to say like, oh, this is, not the right move or anything like that. I like to, like you guys see the positive picture in the situation. Who knows? There's probably some value in Max that we're not really seeing at this time. Yes, he really hasn't touched the NBA court, hasn't really, done anything of the sort notable yet within the NBA, within the main roster. But I feel like he could definitely, be brewing up something, or the team in general be brewing up something with him, and we're just not seeing it yet. Whether he's, providing in a small sample, maybe that helps us out in the long run. And I feel like we're mainly going to get a look of him later on in this season, specifically within the next few games or so, when, of course, we are resting our starters and some of our main players like a Peyton Pritchard as well. Definitely something that, I'm still, kind of, I guess, feeling, I don't know. I don't know about the situation, but there could be good things that come out of the situation. I like to think positive about Lee just because who knows, maybe something, comes about it and I'm convinced and I become a Max Shulga Glazer.
Yeah, Carl, I love what you said. I don't know about it either. Because honestly, I was a big Shulga fan at when it was what team was it? I forgot
VCU.
what VCU?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was a big fan of him in college. But I don't really tune into Maine Celtics games that much, unfortunately. So in terms of, I just find out now when Andrew read them his stats, and I think they're very impressive. But yeah, I don't know much about him NBA wise, which is why it also caught me by surprise because I was expecting someone with way more experience like Ron Harper Junior, to kind of fill in that role and get that contract. But I'm not mad at Shulga getting it at all. I think this is a great move for the future, and it also doesn't mean that Ron isn't going to get his deal. So that's why I'm kind of like more lean back about it. We're gonna see more of Ron soon. We're gonna see that contract for Ron soon. So until then, I'm happy for Max Shulga definitely, and I'm excited for what he's gonna bring to the franchise in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, again, I'm going to piggyback off of Carl and Daniel now. I don't know. This is a situation that we're going to reevaluate in the next couple of weeks when we're in April, the last couple of games, when we have our playoff spot locked. You face those last two games of the season where you're kind of resting guys. That's kind of when we'll like reevaluate the situation. All right, what has Max Shulga really showed in the NBA? But right now, and no hate towards Shulga because I think he's very talented and I think he could have an opportunity in the NBA someday. But I don't think he's quite NBA ready yet. And I think this is a guy, again, where you get him really cheap, really, really cheap because you drafted him and everything. And on top of that, this is a guy that, I like what you said, Andrew. Like, it's a guy you kind of like store in the G League. That's essentially what they were doing with JD Davison. They stored him in the G League, and you could totally do that because, again, you have to remember we're on a, and I'm not saying Pritchard's going anywhere, so don't even worry about that. But, you have to remember this team is very high on getting out of the luxury tax and changing things up. So this is totally a guy that you could store in the G League. However, this is a guy too where, you kind of, once you relieve yourself from the luxury tax, you look for next year. Maybe you're like, all right, this isn't the option we're totally going to go with. Thank you, Shulga, but we're just gonna waive you. Like, it's not like I said this in the video too, and it doesn't mean this, but it's a situation where it's a 2-year deal. You could waive him if you need, and even like Josh Minot, he got a 2-year deal with the Celtics. And look, they traded him to Brooklyn. It's a low risk, high reward situation where if it doesn't work out, it's whatever. If it works out, great. I think that's kind of where I'm under the sense because, again, I have nothing but respect for Shulga. I won't lie. When he got drafted, I was kind of like, oh, you could have went with a Ryan Nimhard or, geez, even I think Tanji got drafted before him, but we ended up with Tanji anyways. But I'm like, but I have to admit, I never really saw Shulga play, and he convinced me in the G League that he is quite a great player, and I like him for sure. But do you guys have any other takes on Shulga before we move on? All right. Well, next up on our list is Ron Harper Jr. because I gotta say something, and this is the 3rd week in a row that we are talking about Ron Harper Jr. So you guys brace yourself. We do it for our Ron Harper Jr. fan page, but we also do it because we love watching Ron Harper Jr. and we've watched him a lot this year in the G League, and we've covered him. And I'm gonna say this is CNR's player. I'm gonna say this is CNR's spotlight player. I think we've spotlighted him throughout the season, and geez, I don't know if Ron Harper is watching this podcast, but Ron, we've talked about you a lot this season. We might as well call it the Ron Harper Jr. podcast, I think. No, but in all seriousness, though, this is a guy that we're all rooting for. We all want him to get a contract with this team. I think Andrew and I have more so seen him in the G League, and then Daniel, and then I would say, we have Carl and David who have like been on this podcast, and we talk about him so much that you guys see him as well, and you're like, oh my gosh, Ron Harper Jr. And that's what I think upset me so much when Shulga got that contract, because I'm like, oh my gosh, should have gave it for Ron Harper Jr. But David said a very positive take last week, and I want to bring it back up. It looks like the Celtics are waiting till the day before playoffs, right before playoffs start, to give him a contract, because then the luxury tax and everything that happens then is out of the water. Like, you could give him a bigger deal, because the thing that beats him and Shulga is Shulga, you're going to get on a lot cheaper of a deal. Ron Harper Jr. has played with the 905 Raptors. He's played with the Raptors. He's been a two-way with the Pistons. He's been in the league. You didn't draft him. You have to give him a little bit more money. And, I feel like this, me personally, if I was Ron Harper Jr. and I see them, giving guys 10 days, and it's like, I had a great game against the Rockets. Like, I know it's a business, but I would feel some type of way. And you still see him out there smiling. Maybe that's just the player he is, but I'm sure there are conversations behind closed doors with him and Brad Stevens and the Celtics organization talking about something. Hey, look, like, we have a deal with you, but we have to wait till this certain time. Like, I am almost certain, because I strongly believe that once Charles Bassey 10 days up and, you get right before playoffs, Ron Harper Jr. gets a contract. I am so certain in that. And if not, you guys can come and blame me, but I really strongly believe that. And I'm really rooting for it, because I tell you what, this is a guy that we can't let walk. This is a guy that I love, Ron Harper Jr., and just what he does. I think he's very, very strong and promising to this organization, and I'm rooting for him. David said that, and then when I was hit with that Max Shulga news, I was like, okay, all right, that was a hit. But then I looked at it again, and I'm under the impression that he's going to get this contract. Like, I really strongly believe that. But we are joined by Tommy Martinotti. Welcome to the podcast.
Tommy.
What up, boys?
We're talking about Ron Harper Jr. Because, we think kind of towards the end of the year he's going to get the contract, because after all the luxury tax situation and everything, once you alleviate yourself from there, they kind of go back over, because Celtics are trying to stand strong of being under the luxury tax. But I think they can get him then. But we'll start off with you, Andrew. Go to Carl, Tommy, and go to Carl, Daniel, and Tommy. We'll go that order really quick. But what are your thoughts, Andrew? We'll start off with you.
Yeah, I want to keep it short and sweet, because I think we have talked about it a lot, and we know we really like Ron Harper, and we know what he's capable of. I mean, if he had more opportunity towards the beginning of the season and was within this rotation, I would not be surprised if he was in the top of the rotation, more so coming off the bench as your 7th, 8th man. I really believe that. But I will say, having him in the G League and giving that developmental time allowed him to perform in these last couple of games, or in those games where he scored a lot. So you can't really look back on the past. I mean, what happened, and I think it was for the best for Ron Harper Jr., but it really is just a waiting game towards the end of the season. They're going to give him a contract. I mean, you'd be a fool to not give this guy a contract for what he's done, for what he's capable of. And yes, obviously he's a little more money than Strogel, but you're probably going to get him for a very, very good price that can set you up for the future.
Well said. What do you got, Carl?
Yeah, and furthermore with that Max Scholga talk, actually, yeah, I agree with you, Griffin. Yeah, that was the part that confused. That mainly the part that confused me was, how was Ron Harper not given that contract, and Scholga's even getting that contract. And again, nothing against Scholga or anything like that. It's just that Ron Harper Jr. has been at this time been given an opportunity to really, show off in the best way that he can. Obviously great offensively and great defensively as well too. Up just a little bit from him, during the time that he's been on with, the Boston Celtics, the main roster Celtics, of course. But definitely I see him getting a contract in the near future. I would hope that David's prediction is correct. He gets it, right before the playoffs come in. And he's essentially serving as one of the main answers to our success as these years go by.
I'm going to have to say that I don't think Ron Harper deserves a contract at this point. I think, he's been over. No, I'm just kidding. I think
Tommy coming in here.
I was we could be a little more divisive in this podcast. Not that too divisive.
Besides Baylor Shireman, I think Ron Harper Jr. is probably been the best surprises on this Celtics roster this season. One of the few things that we talked about earlier on in the year when we would bring up Ron Harper was, he would struggle defensively, which was kind of all of our thoughts. And we know he has a talent to be good at the NBA level offensively, but will he be able to play defense at a high rate at the NBA level? And I mean, he's proven that and more, in my opinion, so far. We see kind of his size and length come into play. When they played OKC this past weekend, we saw him literally rip SGA of a crossover dribble and just got his arms in there, and that created a fast break bucket, which is hard to do against probably the best player in the NBA. So just his length offensively, we've seen him guard Kevin Durant against Houston, guard one of the best guards that we've seen in the past decade in SGA. Just a few names, but, we all know how talented he can be offensively. But for me personally, seeing his upside defensively, his rebounding capabilities on both ends of the floor, and just his willingness to give effort and kind of play whatever role he's asked. Some nights we'll see him start, if we have some injuries, and other minutes he might, or other games or weeks, he might not play for weeks. And, he's willing to whatever Missoula asks of him. So I think Harper Jr. will definitely get a contract before the end of this year or before the start of next season.
Yeah, what do you got for us, Daniel?
Yeah, not really much to say other than everything that's been said already. But I actually thought when he got signed, when he got drafted, the Raptors. I thought he was going to end up like staying there. I thought it was going to be good for them because he had well, I guess they didn't average that much, but I was following along with him when he was at the Raptors, and he had some good games, and I thought, wow, this guy's really promising. So it was surprising when I saw that they ended up letting go of him, but I'm glad we ended up picking him up because he's definitely one for the future. Same with Shulga. I put them both in the same conversation because I think you see this team 2 3 years from now, you're going to see them getting obviously a lot more minutes, a lot more production from them. And at that time, we're going to be like glad that we got him on a deal. We're going to look back at this year and be like, wow, I'm so glad we got Shulga on a 2 year deal, and then obviously Ron at the end of the season. So this is definitely one from Missoula and Brad Stevens to look onto to the future. Considering the fact that in terms of drafts of like drafting, there's not much for us essentially because we're such a good team. So it's good to have these guys to lean back on and kind of realize that we don't need to get these stars in the draft. We don't need to tank for these guys because we have a lot of similar guys in the G League and on the men's Celtics team that are more ready than ever to step in and help whenever needed. So there's definitely an assuring feeling as a Celtics fan to know that we're making plans for the future.
Oh yeah, 100%. And you guys go back to the last two podcasts too. We've been talking Ron Harper up a storm. Like I think it's safe to say, fingers crossed, obviously, but we need him on our roster. We do. But heading into the main report now, and you guys see the guy down there. We'll be talking about him in a little bit, but I wanted to give you guys a quick playoff outlook because we talked about it last podcast as well. On the outside looking in, yesterday before the game against the Squadron, I think is the Pelicans G League team name. We faced off against them. We were in top 8. However, we lost last night and have bounced to 10th. And we are tied with the Boom with the same record, the Boom in 9th place. And the Delaware Bluecoats are 14-16. So if they get another win, they should potentially be in there as well. And then looking ahead to Windy City Bulls, 15-16. Capital City Go-Go, 16-15. So you kind of are just banking on Capital City and Windy City to keep losing. Not very many games left of the playoffs. So just got to keep our fingers crossed and hope for some losses for them and for the Maine Celtics to get some wins, but might be a short season. But let's hope. Let's hope we sneak into playoffs there. But the man of the hour for us is Keon Johnson, who last night had 43 points off the bench for the Maine Celtics. He is phenomenal. And we talked with Spencer Martin. Go check that podcast out, episode 89. And he talked about how phenomenal Keon Johnson is and how he's an NBA ready player. And you guys obviously see that. And it's been incredible to see what Keon Johnson has been able to do in the G League for the Maine Celtics. But there was a little debate that sparked up on Instagram today. And I remember we were talking a while ago, could we add Keon Johnson to this roster right when the Maine Celtics got him? I think that was a conversation I had and I liked it. But now it's kind of like, I don't really see it happening. I see more so with Keon Johnson. I think a team should go all in on him because this is a player who is totally NBA ready and deserves to be in the NBA. But for the Celtics, I wouldn't mind giving him a 2-way contract now that Shulga's off of it. But he's more like a Ron Harper Jr. He's going to be a little more pricey. You're going to have to pay him a little more. He's an NBA player. But I look at that because he wouldn't go for a 2-way contract. He really wouldn't. So I think a team should go for him. But what are your guys' thoughts? We'll go the same rotation.
Yeah, I mean, the stats speak for themselves. He is averaging 14.3 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. I mean, he's an athletic freak of nature. He can defend really well, and he's capable of knocking down the open three. Not as consistent as probably we would like, but he still has that in his arsenal. And he's just an NBA ready player. Like we said, he performed on the Nets. He's done everything that we need for proof that he's capable to perform at the NBA level. So I just think it's only a matter of time when a team is going to bring him up. It's really time and fit, right? That's what Spencer Martin talked about. It just depends on what opportunities are available. And we don't need him right now. We really don't. If you add him into this roster, it's just too much guard depth at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. The future, for Johnson on this team. Yeah, definitely wouldn't need him right away as, we're pretty much all set and ready for, again, a potential push for a championship. And for him, he looks really good, within Maine. Didn't really see too much of him. I did see him, when he was on the Nets, though. I feel like he could be a similar player to, some of the archetypes that we discussed, in earlier podcasts, like a TJ McDonald, essentially being a pest, on the defensive end and, of course, having in his back pocket that 3-ball. Not too much to say about him, but he does look really good. And hopefully soon we see him, developing more and gaining even more opportunities within the actual NBA.
I'd be surprised to see him on a contract with the Celtics. I do believe that, he is an NBA caliber player and could play, a deeper role on someone's bench in the league. When I watch Keon Johnson in Brooklyn and some of his G League highlights, you see the talent is there. You can see he's ready to play at the NBA level. He reminds me a lot of Gary Payton II on the Warriors, just kind of the way he plays scrappy defense, not known for his shooting, but could knock down an open three, wants to get to the rim, slash, and, play make. So I'd be surprised if it was with the Celtics due to how many younger guys that it seems like they're going to sign. We've already seen Amari Williams, Max Shulga, just talked about Ron Harper Jr. So we already have kind of 3 guys that we've recently brought up from the G League. And I just think it's a tough fit for Keon Johnson to fit in there. So, I think he'll have success, but I just don't see it happening with Boston.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tommy. He averaged 11, 5, and 2 or something. Yeah, 11, 4, and 2 for the Nets last season. So definitely a promising player and obviously averaging more this season with the Maine Celtics. But yeah, I don't see him signing with the Celtics just because, like I just said in my previous take, we have so much to look for or to look forward to in the future. And I don't think that future plan includes Keon Johnson in Missoula's eyes or Brad Stevens' eyes. But definitely will be happy, any player that has played or plays for the Celtics, any variation of the Celtics, I'm happy for. So hopefully he gets a deal somewhere else where he continues to shine and show his worth.
Yeah, I think he is definitely a player that deserves to be in the NBA. We just talked about it with Charles Bassey, and Keon Johnson is one of those players too that, he is clearly just, some of the talent compared to him just looks lower. And this is a guy that just deserves to be up there. He's a player that can play hard and he's played the minutes with the Nets. Please, if you're an NBA team watching this podcast, probably not, but take a flyer on Keon Johnson. Take a flyer on Keon Johnson. That's my pitch.
I mean, actually, don't take a flyer because I want to watch him in the G League. I'm selfish.
No, I know. I'd take another year with Keon and Maine. I would love that, but for him, take him.
Yeah, and the Maine Celtics obviously want that too. We talked to Spencer. I didn't really talk about it on the podcast, but it's super cool to see. There's so much story within the Maine Celtics and the Maine Celtics organization. Like their commitment to getting guys to the next level is so much deeper than just, man, we want to show the league that we can develop players. Like there's deep personal connection with each of these players on the roster, and they really want to see success from a personal level. And it's really cool to see that, and it just shows how much more meaning that the G League has than just a league where there's players a little worse or not giving the opportunity just yet to be in the NBA.
Well, I have a good pitch. I have a good pitch for Keon. I don't think you'll be watching this, but my pitch for Keon is, stay with Maine till like halfway next year, and keep dropping these 40-point games. And then, after Andrew and I and all of you guys get to see him play a little bit more in Maine, then, go be a star in the NBA. Go be a star. But no, in all seriousness, though,
I'm sure he'll consider that for us.
I'm sure he'll be on a roster by the end of the year. I'm sure he will. If not, he will be on a roster very soon, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But next up for us, league expansion. Wow. And you could get very in depth into this, and I think this is a conversation that, we could just have a podcast on league expansion. Like, I think what we'll do is if it is confirmed, we'll talk about it, and we'll be like, hey, how will this affect the Celtics? But I'm just gonna ask you guys a simple question, and you guys could say a little bit about it. Do you guys want league expansion in the NBA? Just a yes or no question, and you guys could elaborate on it a little bit. We'll go around again. Do you guys want it?
I don't want to go too in depth with it because I think there is so many topics to consider. And I listened to Shams Charania talk about it, Stephen A. and Brian Windhorst, and they all had great takes on it with all things considering. And a big one for us as a Celtics fan and as a people that are following the Celtics, you probably don't want the expansion because you're going to have 8 guys you can keep, and then the other remaining players can get picked up. And we have a lot of talented players on smaller contracts that people would love to have on their roster. So that's problem number one. Another thing to consider with the expansion is the fact that these GMs and these teams have to consider is from a pricing standpoint, is it worth it? Because right now you have the revenue share of 1 to 30. You add 2 more teams. Now it's 1 to 32. So is adding these teams to the association, is that beneficial? Is that going to bring in enough money for their liking? I think it would, considering you have 2 teams in Vegas and Seattle. Seattle has that more nostalgia feel to it where people have a rich fan base that people want to go to the game. In Las Vegas, I mean, we know what Las Vegas brings, considering the gambling and just that whole atmosphere over there. Yeah, Dan, I mean, you said it, money. So that's another thing. And then finally, it's like, who wants to leave, right? Is it Minnesota going over there? Is it a lot of teams don't want to leave, uproot their team, uproot their from their city and move somewhere elsewhere. So there's a lot of things to consider it. I think it'd be cool to have extra teams. I don't know if in my opinion, it's going to happen. I really do. I think if these teams could go for 10 billion, and I mean, it's just most likely it's going to happen. The NBA rarely shies away from increasing revenue and pushing forward.
Yes or no question, Quinny?
Was it a yes or no question?
I'm just kidding. Yeah, but
I had so many thoughts in my head, and I was like, I'm just gonna run with it. Hopefully, I didn't take anyone else's. But I kind of studied up on it, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna fire away.
Drop some knowledge,
David moment. My David moment.
I gotta love it. Carl, what do you have? You want it?
I don't know. Okay, I look at it like this. Yes, only because it does add more value to the NBA. But of course, no, as you know, there's issues with that, especially pertaining to the Celtics. I don't want to have to potentially say goodbye to an Hugo Gonzalez or even a Luka Garza, guys who proved themselves, but at the same time never got to really prove themselves, with us yet. I say yes only because, I'm not gonna lie, I do think not the Boston Celtics, but the NBA could really benefit off of having a team in Las Vegas. I feel like when it comes to the NBA, you have all of these big cities in the North American region that should be highlighted with these big teams, and it works out not just for the team involved, but also the entire league and even the fan base and the potential fan base you'll get in Las Vegas. For Seattle, though, in their case, be great to see them have a team again. But at the same time, I don't want to see it happen. We already kind of got that, we already kind of get that happening. If it does happen, you'll probably see Gary Payton II going over and actually demanding a trade. He said this himself. He'll demand a trade and essentially do what his father did before him, playing for a Seattle team. Who's to say, though, they'll bring back the Seattle Supersonics, in that case.
I mean, you better bring back the Seattle Supersonics. I think you'd be stupid to not bring them back. I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you going to bring Seattle?
Really should happen.
Mammoths, we got
or just a different city, a new city.
Or a new city, yeah.
That can also be the case.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
also have a strong feeling that before KD retires, if the Supersonics do come back, I have a feeling he might go for one last season before retiring. So that'd be nice. That'd be a good ending touch to his career as well.
I heard a lot of fans talking about that too, potentially doing something like that.
So maybe the NBA is writing a script.
I think that I'd be in huge favor for a league expansion team. I think it would mix up the NBA. But I have a question for all of you. So if there is an expansion team, I believe it's every NBA team can only keep 8 of their current players, and the rest of them have to go into some sort of draft for the expansion team. So they can start with a somewhat fair roster. So who are those 8 players that you're keeping on this Celtics team moving forward if you had to choose right now?
That's too hard. I can't. Can
I start?
I mean, go for it, because I have mine.
All right, so obviously JT and JB, that's easy. We don't even have to debate that. Public knowledge to everybody. Derek White would be my third guy. I would have to go with Hugo as my fourth guy. And then I would probably go with Pritchard. Pritchard would be my fifth. Sixth, Jordan Walsh would be my sixth. Ada. And
wait. Before you say your last one.
Gonna try to bait him.
Ron Harper Junior would be my 8. And because the reason I say those names is because you have to take into accountability the youth that you want to be moving with in the future and kind of what you have right now, which is why I didn't name Sam Hauser, Luka Garza. I almost named Mario Williams over Keita. But just 8 guys off the top of my head, and it was harder than I thought it was going to be, but those would be my probably 8 if we had to choose. But I just thought it would be fun to kind of think about it and hear what you guys thought.
That's tough. Does anyone have any other ones before Andrew and I, not Andrew, Daniel and I give our takes on it? Anyone else have another 8?
I'll go. I actually thought about this morning. Obviously, JT and JB stay. Derek White. Pretty much just going to list off the starting 5 that we have right now. Sam Hauser, Neemias Queta. And then for the other 3, obviously, Hugo Gonzalez. You guys know that's my guy. Peyton Pritchard. And then that last spot. I'll take Baylor. That's
fair. Yeah. Andrew, you got one?
No, I would honestly.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
It's a tough one, man. I actually would probably go. I don't want to be recency biased, and honestly, you're not being recency biased because Baylor Shireman is still performing at a high level right now. I might have to go Ron Harper Jr. though. I'm not gonna lie.
This is Andrew's Baylor hate.
No, it's not. It's not because Baylor, dude. Ron Harper Jr. Legitimately, Ron Harper Jr. I'm not even lying. Ron Harper Jr. If you watched him play, if you watch Baylor Shireman play in the G League and you watch Ron Harper Jr. play in the G League, Ron Harper Jr. is a much more talented scorer. He can control the ball. Yeah. He can actually get downhill and get the defense on his hip. He can create. He has high upside. And in my opinion, he's an elite,
agree.
like he's a scorer. Like I don't really know where he could go. I do
See, that's
think
why
he's
I
that
couldn't
good.
do it.
I really do think he's that good, and I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I
But
can't even pick 8. I can't
like
do it.
I could see Ron Harper Jr. somewhat slotting in. Like I said, Peyton Pritchard, we want to keep him for as long as possible, but if contracts come and he's capable of filling a position similar to a Peyton Pritchard.
What's going to happen with Pritchard is whenever this contract he's on now expires, the Celtics aren't going to be able to offer him enough money for him to stay in Boston unless he takes a pay cut, because he's going to get a bag, because he's proving how valuable he is and how valuable he can be to pretty much any NBA team out there. So realistically, yes, you kind of have to think into the future a little bit with Ron Harper Jr. and say, okay, 2 to 3 years when Pritchard's deal's over, can he fill in and take Pritchard's role over? Because Pritchard, let's be real, the way he's playing now, his age, he's just going to keep getting better. And you know how the NBA is. Every year that goes by, players make more and more money. And if you're going to keep up with JB and JT's contracts and have them at the head of the snake, you're not going to be able to sign Pritchard for probably $100+ million contract.
Yeah. Like I like Shireman. He's playing so well, so there's no hate towards him. But I don't like using this terminology because I think everyone has some different. But he's a little more replaceable, and even a guy like Hauser, he's a little more.
Baylor.
No, he is, dude. He is. Like there's more guys that you can compare to a Shireman rather than a Ron Harper Jr. I think Ron Harper is a little more generational than Shireman.
No, I this is why I can't do it. I can't part with any of them, you guys. Daniel, do you have a 8 though? And do you think are you for league expansion or are you not?
Yeah, I'll give my 8 first. JT and JB, no doubt about that. It's actually surprising how, like I said this during Taylor's first game. It's so surprising how long this duo has been together for. Like you don't see it very often. You usually see one of them getting shipped out at some point, but 7 seasons together and still going strong, or 8 seasons now. It's impressive. So shout out to Brad for that. But yeah, JT and JB obviously, and then I'm going no Pritchard. Off the jump, I'm going no Pritchard. I think with the years to come, his contract is just going to get too much for us to keep matching it. It was already an issue about 2 years ago before we re-signed him, but it's just going to be an even bigger issue in the future. Speaking of future, I'm definitely going Ron Harper over Shireman. That's no doubt for me, especially because of the age Shireman was when we got him already. Like he was already like surpassing a lot of the other guys' age. Now with that does come experience. He's an experienced player, but I just think, again, I was talking about the future earlier when I mentioned Max Shulga and Ron Harper. We got to think about the future. I feel like Shireman is more of a now. He is a future piece, but not as much of a future piece as a guy like Ron Harper. He doesn't have that high of a ceiling in terms of like when you compare the two, in my opinion. So I'm definitely going Tatum, Brown, White, Ron, Amari, Keita, both of them, and then no Hauser either. I think this time is done with us. I think it's time to move on. Definitely. That was 6. Who else? I feel like I'm missing someone. Oh, Ugo. Yeah, forgot about that. Ugo and probably Walsh. I'm not sure.
It's a good 8.
I think Walsh. Yeah.
Are you for league expansion or not?
Oh, I forgot about that. I was all no. I was gonna say no, but until I heard Carl's take. And I like what Carl said about being like 50-50 about it, because there is good and bad sides about it. For the Celtics, in terms of the Celtics, I mean, it's going to bring more competition on one hand, which I'm all for it. I saw someone on Twitter, it's going to be 6 to 8 more free wins for the Celtics on the season. So you really can't hate on that. I'll be okay with that. But again, on the other side, we're losing 8 of our guys. So it's really taken me a lot. It's taken me a lot of time to fall in love with this team. I think after we lost the likes of Porzingis, Holiday, and those guys, I kind of like honestly, realistically, honestly, it took me a minute since the season started for me to be like, okay, I love this team. This is a good team. Because at the beginning, again, with all that tanking talk, I was like, where are we as a Celtics team? Where the hell are we? Like, where are our players? Like, who? What is this team? So it's taken me a minute to fall in love with this team that we have right now, especially with the likes of Sharman. I'm going to mention Sharman because, again, that's a guy that took me a minute to kind of like flip on him. But I have flipped on him now, and I realize that he's a really good player. So this team that we have right now reminds me a lot of that 2022 team. A lot of value in these guys. And when that 2022 team got dismantled, I felt the same way. I was like, where are we going to go from here? So it's going to be tough to get rid of some of those guys that the ones I didn't mention. But yeah, there's really two sides of it. But I think for the most part, I think I'm going to go no.
Yeah. I can't do it. And I'm saying no to league expansion. I'm saying no. I'm a big no. In the after 10 years, when the Celtics dynasty is over, maybe we go with some league expansion, shake it up. Not for the next 10 years, you guys.
Corrupt.
Not
Dude,
for the 10 years.
The expansion won't ruin the dynasty, though. Like, we still
will make
have all we need. But anyway,
guys will still want to come to the Celtics, right? Like,
Can't do it, guys. Can't do
I
it.
think I will say, though, for other teams, like, say, the Wizards and franchises that are a little lower on the totem pole, like, it could even further perpetuate where they are as an organization. Because I just don't know about depth within this league, and now you just have less teams. There's going to be more tanking. There's going to be more potentially, like, it could create an even larger gap between teams because there's much more.
I gotta say too, if this does happen, we could afford to have a Keon Johnson on the team if we got some players taken from us. I gotta say. But this talk go on for hours, and if league expansion does get confirmed, maybe we'll have a podcast dedicated to that. But you guys know the point, the road ahead, because we already did the Warriors one in last week, and I gotta say, Al Horford is not going to be playing tomorrow. So, why do you have to?
He's in my parlay.
Oh, geez, yeah, he's not playing.
That's our go, man.
I don't even because I have a tweet from Bobby Manning. I have a tweet from Bobby Manning. I don't even think he'll be in Boston according to this tweet because it says Al Horford will not be in Boston tomorrow for what would have been his first game back since leaving the Celtics. So I don't even
hold on.
You know what, dude?
There is some sort of hidden beef that we don't know about between the Celtics and Al Horford.
What's good?
Yeah,
what's good, bro?
Yeah.
I wonder if they just lowballed the crap out of him in the offseason. Maybe what if he was like, yeah, I want to stay, but like,
but even if they
we can't. He's older.
Like, he was there for the Patriots game. What?
It's really pissing me off.
And wearing the Patriots shirt, so it's just and he said
with his family too.
So Carl, you're saying there's no beef. You're saying there's no beef.
No, this is just weird to me. That's how weird to me this is now becoming, because he said something about something happening after the first Warriors and Celtics game, this season. And, we've been hearing rumors all of, throughout this season. And now he's not showing up in Boston, but he was here, not too long not for the Super Bowl, but supporting the Patriots. What? Something,
I don't know.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments.
He wasn't here for the Super Bowl.
Let's say this too, right? Like, you look back on, like, you remember you watched The Last Dance with the Bulls, right? And you kind of see the history unravel, and you realize there's more animosity than you think, right? It was all sunshine, rainbows from the outside, but from the inside there was potential animosity. Like, you really don't know. Like, and it's concerning. Even like a guy like between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like, I'm not stirring that. I'm just saying, like, you just never know. You just never know what these relationships are necessarily like. So who knows? And you just never know.
But we could be even looking too deep into it, because remember when Porzingis was with the Hawks and Atlanta came to Boston, he wasn't even here for that. So
Yeah, well,
His calf
Porzingis
could just
isn't
be really
out.
messed up.
Porzingis hasn't done half of what Al Horford did for the city of Boston. I'm just
yeah,
saying.
but you would think like maybe he's rehabbing or something. I don't know.
He's also
Maybe-
already had this reunion again. Like, this is not his first time coming back to the Garden after leaving, right?
Yeah,
So
but after a championship, it's a little bit different.
it's a little different. It's a little different.
Yeah, you would
You're
think
right,
after
you're
a
right.
championship, you want to retire with the team that you like built a legacy.
Well, I mean, it's just like he knows how much the fans embrace him, regardless.
That's
of what
true
happens.
too.
In
Yeah,
the
that's true, too.
organization, like you want to feel
Yeah.
appreciated by the fans,
That's-
which Al Horford definitely is.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
knows that.
That's true too.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
But
I mean,
like
well,
you
I
said, it's-
guarantee you, down the line when he retires or whatever, something may come out of it, or who knows? This gets thrown under the rug and we never hear about it. But it is a little weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely. Here, this is infamous. Definitely flip. I was trying to raise this one. Raise his eyebrow.
It's an eye race. All right.
This is an eyebrow for sure. But road ahead. We got a tough one a little bit. You got Memphis, then you got the Timberwolves and the Thunder. So what do you guys have the Celtics being in this 3-game span? Andrew, we'll start off with you.
I think we get Grizzlies, get the Timberwolves. And I think we don't get Timberwolves, we get the Thunder. We get the Thunder.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. What do you got, Carl?
Definitely get the Grizzlies. I see us getting the Timberwolves, and I do see us getting OKC. We were so close in that last one. I firmly believe we can beat this team, and it showed in that last game. And it's shown just in general throughout these last games that we've had against the likes of the Spurs and, of course, the Suns. And, of course, against OKC the last time around. So definitely I see us going 3-0. Of course, 4-0, including the Warriors game that's coming tomorrow.
Well said. Tommy, what you got?
Memphis is, could be a possible trap game for the Celtics due to, Memphis is trying to lose games. But I think, they'll take care of business and handle Memphis. I think they drop one against the Timberwolves. I feel like Anthony Edwards always has a Celtics circled on his calendar. He's one of the most exciting players in the league, and I think that'll be a tough game for the Celtics. Minnesota is very physical. Jaden McDaniels has improved greatly this year, so I think we'll drop the game against Minnesota, and then we're gonna have a huge bounce back game against OKC at home in the Garden. Tatum and Brown will be playing. We're going to be healthy, and it's going to be a bounce back game. I think they're going to have a lot to prove to the NBA and say, hey, we're just as good as the top tier teams in this league. So I think we'll go 2-1 this week.
What do you got, Daniel?
Yeah, I got, including this Warriors game, 3-1. Warriors, you win. I agree with you, Tommy. I think Grizzlies could be a little tricky. Just because we always seem to lose kind of those games we're not supposed to lose. Like that blowout loss against the Hornets. That still haunts me. It's one of those where I don't even know how we lost that. But yeah, I think we definitely still win though. But pay attention to that one. And then I don't know what's going on with this scheduling because we keep getting put against a really good team right before the Thunder. It happened with the Spurs, and then it's happening now with the Wolves. So this is going to be a really tough back-to-back. It's not really a back-to-back, but a really tough 2 games. You have the Wolves and then the Thunder 3 days later. But I think we do drop against the Wolves just because, like you said, Tommy, and a very good defensive team in the league. They could surprise us. And then bounce back win against OKC. That's what I was thinking before Tommy even said it. But I think 3-1. That win against OKC is going to be huge as well. Because I was looking at a tweet the other day where in this same span, the Knicks have the easiest game schedule of all time. They have the Nets twice and then the Pacers. It's just gonna it's gonna be an easy few games for the Knicks. So it's gonna be good to kind of continue this win streak and kind of just keep separating us and the Knicks in terms of standing. And that win against OKC is going to be huge for that matter. And also, this also impacts standing as well. or seeding if the Pistons kind of go in a little bit of a drought in the next few games like that they've been doing recently. So this could be huge for in terms of first place and second place seeding at the end of the week.
Daniel, you're really banking on the Pistons to lose. Jeez.
I really am, bro. I really am. I'm so confident about us overtaking them.
You're preying on their downfall.
I really think we can do it. I really think so.
They just got good, and Daniel's preying on their downfall. all jokes. I thought I was gonna be like give a shocker one and be like, oh, we're gonna get the bounce back.
They just lost yesterday. They lost to the Raptors yesterday. So yeah,
I'm preying on their downfall, Daniel.
I'm sticking with my prediction. I think we can. We can definitely get that one seed by the end of the season. That's definitely possible.
I love it. I gotta say, I thought I was gonna give a shocker one. I thought I was gonna be like, oh, we're gonna beat OKC, but all of you guys say we're gonna beat OKC. So, I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here, so the fans don't think we're just biased because we're Celtics fans, because we do also monitor this team. But
no, we're not biased at all, man.
Yeah, no. I gotta say though, I'll go.
Griffin is no, I'm just kidding.
I'll go 2-1. I'll go. We beat the Grizzlies. We beat the Wolves, and then we lose to OKC, because I think there is a world that we do lose the season series to them, but I think there also is a world where we do beat them. You look at JT, he's up to like about 32 minutes now. His minutes restriction might be even lifted by the time we face OKC. And then I think I look very positive in him looking to play that OKC game. So it'll be interesting, but I gotta say, final thoughts before we close it out. And I want to give one for you guys, because I was joking about this earlier, but wait, the hair went wire, but like I need a haircut, guys.
That's a dude from Home Alone. The what's his name? The
Pesci? No, it's Grown Ups.
No, he's in Home Alone too, though. He's in Home Alone. He's the guy that brings the he's the works in the hotel, and brings.
Oh, is he?
Really? Yeah.
Oh, he is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, my bad.
Jeez, well, it's bad, you guys. I need a haircut. That's why I went with a hat today. But that's my final take. Rob Snyder. That's who I look like. But realistic final thoughts. We'll start with you, Andrew. Go around.
Final thoughts for what?
The Celtics upcoming.
Final thoughts for what? Final thoughts on what's
I thought we had,
man.
Well, anything else you gotta say? No. All right.
Go
good?
Celtics.
Go Celtics. Good, yeah. Go Celtics. Carl, happy St. Patrick's Day. Gotta have that.
Yeah, exactly.
St. Patrick's Day.
Tommy, how you think else?
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day, and we're down to the final stretch of the season, and I can't wait for playoffs to start. And the Eastern Conference is going to be fun. The Western Conference is going to be insane to watch, stress-free, because we don't have to worry about facing any of those teams for the finals. I'm just excited, man. This team's ready.
Yeah, Daniel, you got anything to close off? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, as tough as this week is going to be, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting weeks for the team, especially that Wolves and then OKC right after. That's going to be if in some universe you end up winning both, that's going to be amazing, not only for me but for the team as well. So I think this week is going to be like really exciting, in terms of once again proving the haters wrong, proving the doubters wrong, and just establishing this team as a top 3 team in the league, like they have been. So happy St. Patrick's Day, go Celtics.
Well said. Happy St. Patty's Day, go Celtics. And let's be OKC this week. But with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified every time we upload. We will see you guys with the next one. Peace, you guys.